Right then guys, how's it going and welcome back to your football predictions. It has been a long time since I've done one of these videos following the break from football, and to be honest I was getting a little bit inconsistent before the break as well. So it is great to be back as we look forward to the return of Premier League football on Wednesday night. And if you're not familiar with this series, it's basically where you guys go up against me to see who can get the most correct predictions for the upcoming Premier League games. And this video will be slightly shorter than normal because we are just going to be looking at the two games on Wednesday night, but I will be back on Thursday to take a look at all of the weekend's Premier League games. And there is a lot of games coming up thick and fast, so I will be doing my best to stay on top of all the predictions so we can talk about as many games as possible. Now, before we get on to the predictions for Wednesday night, I need to quickly shout out three people. They are MG, FIFA Mains, and Jamie. Now, believe it or not, these three won my last predictions video, which was a very long time ago, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but well done to use three. And remember, if you want to be shouted out in my next predictions video, which as I say will be on Thursday evening at 5 o'clock, be sure to get your predictions down below for the games on Wednesday night that we are going to talk about now. Right then, the first game back in the Premier League, as I say, it's on Wednesday night, it's at 6 o'clock, it's on Sky, and it is Aston Villa taking on Sheffield United. So two teams at opposite ends of the table, and really this is their game in hand for them against the teams that are around them in the league. So if you look at Aston Villa, they are currently sitting in 19th place. They are currently 4 points ahead of Norwich, who are in 20th, and 2 points behind Bournemouth, who are in 18th, Watford, who are in 17th, and West Ham, who are in 16th. So if Aston Villa were able to win this game and pick up 3 points, not only would they step out of the relegation zone, they would also be leapfrogging 3 teams who are in that relegation battle with them. So that would really not be a bad way to get started back in the Premier League again. I mean, if we look at their form from before the break, they were not doing it too well. They had lost 4 of their last 5 Premier League games, including a 4-0 loss to Leicester, which was their most recent Premier League game, which obviously wasn't that recent. It was a good while ago now. And they have been having a few friendlies to try and get back into some match fitness. They had a draw against West Brom, and they actually played Leicester twice in 2 friendlies behind closed doors. They won 1 and they lost 1. So there you go. It's quite hard to really take too much into account when you think they've had a few friendlies. We're talking about form that was from ages ago now. But what is important is that 3 points, as I say, would leapfrog 3 teams and take them out of the relegation zone. As for Sheffield United, they are currently sitting in 7th place, and this game in hand is very important for them as well, but for a different reason. They are currently sitting goal difference behind 6th place, 2 points behind 5th place, and 5 points behind 4th place. So they're already in contention for a Europa League spot, and winning this game would jump them straight into that and put them into 5th place. And I mean, they're already in what I would say a good outside chance of potentially even grabbing a Champions League spot. So if they were to win this game, they would put themselves just 2 points off Chelsea, who were in 4th. So a very different reason, but also a very important game. If we look at their Premier League form from before the break, they had lost 1, which was against Man City. They drew 1, I think that was against Brighton, and then they won the other 3, most recently beating Norwich, which, as I say, wasn't that recent. But some better form on the way out compared to Aston Villa. And Sheffield United have had some friendlies as well. They played 2 friendlies against Huddersfield. I believe they won 1 and drew 1. They had a friendly against Hull, which they won 4-0. And most recently, I think just yesterday or the day before, they had a friendly against Barnsley, which they actually lost 2-0. So Again, form-wise, obviously Sheffield United have done a lot better than Aston Villa over the course of the season. Both teams have been playing some friendlies to try and get some match fitness again. And as I say, it's really quite tough to predict a game where you haven't seen two teams play in such a long time. It's like when the Premier League first starts up for a new season. Quite often you get a few rogue results before things kind of settle down and teams get into their stride. So I think because Sheffield United have been that much better over the course of the season, I'm going to back them to win 2-1. But, I mean, Aston Villa have got the home advantage. There is no crowd, so who knows how that will affect the game. But at least they are kind of on their own soil, so that should still give them a little bit of a more... I don't know, will it? I don't know. I think the fact that it's their own ground, it's their own surroundings, that will still help, but it won't be the same as if there were a crowd. And let's not forget as well, they've got a 9-man bench and 5 substitutes to make in this game as well, as that is one of the new rules for the Premier League going forward. So how will that affect things? I don't know. Let me know what you think of this game down below. And the second game back for the Premier League, straight after the Aston Villa Sheffield United game at 8:15. Again, this one is on Sky, and it is Man City taking on Arsenal. Arteta returning to take on Pep. I think this is going to be hopefully a very good game to watch. If we talk about Man City, they're currently sitting in second place. If we're being honest, I don't think they've got too much left to play for this season. They aren't going to catch Liverpool. They are 4 points ahead of Leicester, so Leicester could and very well may overtake Man City before the end of the season. But I think the main thing really for Man City now is to get a Champions League spot. So whether they did drop down to third or maybe even drop down to fourth, I don't think it hugely matters. I know you may have to do a qualification if you don't come in the top 2 or the top 3, but I don't think it really matters. I think they're going to get Champions League regardless, so there isn't too much pressure for them. I suppose you could look at it that way. Maybe the pressure is off and they can just go out and enjoy it and do what they do. I mean, in terms of Man City's form before the break, it was pretty good in general. They beat Sheffield United, they lost against Spurs, but then they came back and beat West Ham. They beat Leicester, who were a place behind them, so that was a very good win. But then went and lost 2-0 to Manchester United just before the break. So that is not the way they would have wanted to go out. And in terms of friendlies, I literally can't find anything. So if they have been playing friendlies behind closed doors against other teams, they've kept it top secret. One thing I did find, however, is that in one of their inter-squad friendlies, that Sané was playing. And obviously we've not seen much of him at all recently. And I think, as I say, Man City don't have a huge amount to play for in terms of league positioning. But what Man City do have is a huge squad full of talented players. And if you think about the fact that we are pretty much going to be playing a game every 3 days now for the rest of this Premier League season, that is going to be a huge advantage for them. I think we're going to see a lot of teams use a lot of squad players that we may not have necessarily seen as much of before, because players aren't at full fitness and they need to make use of everyone. So it could be that Man City have a really good run. They are obviously suffering with a few injuries to some key players, but in general, Man City are going to do quite well. In terms of Arsenal, now as I say, Arteta, the new man in charge, going to take on Pep. No doubt he is going to have... this is the returning game. No doubt he's been drilling this into the players over the last 2 to 3 months of how important this game would be. And reading up on a little bit about Arteta and the way Arsenal played, I think Man City scored 3 goals in the last 4 out of 5 games against Arsenal or something. So, Man City have definitely had the advantage in previous games, previous seasons, and I think Arteta will definitely have been running drills on how Man City play to make sure that doesn't happen this time around. Has he done enough? Who knows? I mean, in terms of Arsenal's league position, they are currently sitting in 9th place. 3 points off 6th, which is where you would have to qualify for your Europa League spot. 5 points off 5th. 8 points off 4th. So I would say, especially if they were able to win this game against Man City, that would put them 5 points off a Champions League spot. It's an outside chance, you know. It's possible they could grab it, but as I say, there's so many teams around that area right now. It's going to be a real fight to the finish. I definitely think they are in contention of a Europa League spot, along with Sheffield United, I mentioned earlier, along with Wolves are up there as well. So, yeah, it's going to be very tight. And again, a win against Man City would be a big step towards that Champions League spot, which is what they really want, you know. They would really want to win this game. Their form before the Premier League break, in the last 5 Premier League games, they're drawn against Chelsea, they're drawn against Burnley, they beat Newcastle, Everton and West Ham. So no losses in their last 5 Premier League games. That is not bad form at all. And I did find some information on their friendlies. They beat Charlton in a friendly and they lost to Brentford in a friendly. So you can't take too much from friendlies. Teams are trying things out. Teams are trying players. And as I say, maybe trying players who wouldn't really be in the starting lineup or the starting squad to normal, because they want to try and give everyone a bit of game time. So, prediction time. As I say, it's very tough at the moment to start predicting on games where they've been off for so long. We really don't know how are they going to change formation, are they going to be changing players, how are they going to do this. Arsenal lost 3-0 to Man City in December. Have Arsenal got something to really come back and try and prove a point? Arteta is no doubt going to want to prove a point, but then Man City are very, very good. I've actually gone 3-1 Man City. I've given Arsenal a goal, but not too different to what happened in December. You know what it is? With the lack of match practice, does that mean there's going to be less goals because people aren't quite got their shooting boots on yet? Or is there going to be loads of goals because the defenders haven't quite got into their stride yet as well? You know, it's tough. Well, that's what I'm going to go for. Let me know your thoughts down below. And that is it, guys. So those are my 2 predictions up there. Be sure to get your predictions down in the comments below. Now, as there's only 2 games to predict for this video, I'm also going to say to add any goal scorers or anything else that you think might happen in the game, because whoever is the closest will be the winner and shouted out in the video on Thursday. So if you want to add a goal scorer for each of the games, please do. And as I say, be sure to get all of your predictions in before 6 o'clock on Wednesday, because I will be taking a note of everyone's predictions before the first game kicks off. Right, guys, that is it. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Be sure to drop a like if you are happy to see this prediction series back. And yeah, excited for the Premier League, back on Thursday to talk about a lot more games and shout out the winner from this video as well. Alright guys, thanks for watching as always, and I'll catch you later.